everybody, and welcome to Books Unbound, the podcast where we unbind books to get to their hearts with your hosts, us, Ariel, Raeleen, and today we have Julia! Woo!
What an entrance! Yeah, for the first time ever, we have one of my IRL friends on the podcast. Oftentimes we'll, have Ariel's friends from afar on the podcast, which is very fun, but this is, for me, extra fun.
What a special opportunity.
And the other fun thing is my friend Julia here is the one who has designed our most recent round of bookmarks, which is another reason I really wanted to get her on here.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. So that's all I have to say.
So many elements.
We feel, there is so many elements. And like you mentioned, Raeleen, we've never had all of the guests that we've had, I think have either just been, artists that we hired to do the bookmarks and we're like excited to meet them, or just my friends, but they're all internet friends. We've never had like a real life friend.
I'm a real woman.
Unlike all those online people. They're not
all those
real.
online freaks, quite frankly. This is really exciting. So maybe this is a new era. From now on, we're just going to bring on our friends. We just need our local
The only
buddies.
problem is I only have 3 friends, and 2 of them are here
fine.
right now, so it wouldn't be a very long podcast.
I could dress up as someone else next time.
Yeah, we do like to do that.
I would love if you guys chatted just for a moment about how you guys met, because it is a bookish meeting. So maybe we could start there, and then we'll start to get to grill Julia about her bookish tastes.
Absolutely. So, we met working at a bookstore. So, as the people of the podcast may know, I worked at a used bookstore for 6 years. And I would say maybe like 3 or 4 years into that, Julia showed up. And I was like, who is this crazy chick? And we just became friends really quickly and spent a lot of time hanging out. We have twice lived in places that were within like a 1-minute walk of each other. So we've had a lot of like crazy evenings. Monday Night Movie Madness is something we used to do every week.
Our lives were basically, we worked all day together, and then we would go together after work and do something all evening.
We would
also.
drive somewhere, and then we'd see each other again the next day. We'd drive to work together.
And then I would sleep over. Like, we basically lived together.
Yeah. Kyle knows Julia pretty well, too. The amount of times we've been watching a horror movie and Kyle has popped out and scared her out of nowhere. It happened a lot.
Yeah, I used to get very angry at him for that. Yeah.
He's a mean guy, but we love him.
I think that's really beautiful. So I know you guys have a lot of bookshop memories, which is awesome.
Yeah, we most recently went to the bookshop. This was the one I took her. I took her there. We went shopping.
Yes, you said you're going shopping with your friend.
Now I'll see
chapters.
They know everything about you. No, you're just this mysterious friend I've talked about before, but I never really mentioned your name. But now I can mention your name.
That's awesome.
People will know who you are. You were just a phantom before.
I love that. Now we can talk more openly about Julia and start to expose all of her secrets.
Yes.
There are a lot.
So let's jump into our questions. The first question is, what is your social insurance number? No, hold on.
That's a good place to start.
The first question that we wanted to get to know you is arguably the most important question of our time. What is your favorite book? And of course, if that's too stressful, what are your favorite books?
It's funny you should ask. I actually have a list prepared.
Oh, good.
I never thought someone would ask me
What
this.
a shock. Yeah, finally. No, I have lots of favorite books, and it's kind of an impossible question. And I feel like there are so many phases in one's life that it's hard to pin down one book.
Yeah, like do you pick a favorite from when you were 10, or is it something that's genuinely your favorite now?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I don't have my glasses. So I have to...
That's totally fine.
So I've written down 1Q84 by Murakami, The Goldfinch, Annihilation, Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
I don't have my glasses. Solaris, Master and Margarita, and House of Leaves.
Ooh. A big variety.
That's a very interesting list, Julia.
Right? Like, what does that mean? How you can't even nail down what is the common thread?
Well, I think there's a common thread.
That's true.
Julia's the common thread. I think if I were to pick out a common thread, I would pick mysterious. Like there's a lot of mystery, like intrigue and ambiguity in a lot of those books.
That's true.
They're a lot about like trying to understand something, maybe. I'm like House of Leaves, Annihilation, The Goldfinch, IQ 84. I always say IQ 84.
I know, and I don't correct you anymore, but I know what you
don't. You know what? It is IQ 84.
It also works. Yeah.
It can
like,
be.
thematically, it's fine. Yeah.
For Ariel, that
So
works.
I feel like all of those books are about intrigue. That's interesting. I feel suddenly that I am trying to grill Julia, and I am really not. I'm just very intrigued.
No.
But yeah, now let's see. This is curious. I want to know your favorite author, and I'm curious if this author showed up in that list you just talked about.
Okay, so I wrote here, I haven't really read like a single person's entire catalog, so that's sort of a hard question. I'm not like a Raeleen reader. Like
I've read 40
Neither
Stephen King
am
books. Is
I.
that weird?
yeah, like Rat is always reading something and is always finishing something.
Yeah.
Like it's a constant in your life. I am a telephasic reader. I am always in and out and dropping books and reading more, and so I don't know. I feel like I'm not quite as dedicated as Raeleen.
I do love that about both of you guys, though. I feel like you guys have a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I put
Yeah,
John Irving as my favorite author, but that doesn't really seem pretty fair because I
You
don't.
talk about him all the time.
You won't shut up about that guy.
That's fair.
She's the one who got me to read A Prayer for Owen Meany, so
Oh, okay, yeah.
back in the day.
Why does he feel like your favorite author if he wasn't in your list of favorite books? Was he? Or
He
did I
used
miss
to
one?
be. You used to say that Prayer for Owen Meany was your favorite book, so it's interesting that he's not on there anymore.
Well, I just reread Prayer for Owen Meany like maybe 2 weeks ago or something,
Yeah.
and I was reminded of how I'm changing as a person in relation to the book. Like I did like it.
Fascinating.
Yeah, a little less, I would say, but
It happens.
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
It just doesn't belong anymore.
I don't know. Yeah.
I just don't know. I was talking to my boyfriend's sister, Maureen. Hi, Maureen, if you're listening. And she was saying that she just started listening to the podcast, Ray. So now we've got extra pressure. We've got to be great.
Oh, my God.
And she was saying, like, she started from the beginning.
Oh.
Which I'm like, don't do that. Our episodes are so much better
They were
now.
pretty shitty back then.
It was not our best work, but she was like, she really liked the sound of Fly on the Wall by E. Lockhart.
Oh, yeah.
And that's one of my, like, teenage favorite books. I don't remember in what context we talked about it in episode 1.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I must have gone really hard because she, like, was like, you really, like really talked that book up. I'm going to read it. And I was like, oh, God. And she read it, and she was like, it really felt like a 2007 book.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, like, I just find it really interesting how if I reread that book now, I think I would still love it. But
Because
there'd
of
be so much nostalgia.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, can you even be objective about books that you loved as a kid?
Yeah, that's tough.
tough.
Because when Maureen keeps listening, if you'll remember, I did read Fly on the Wall like pretty early on in the podcast, and it was just like, it was like not great, but it was fun.
No, yeah, it's just like a teen book from 2008.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Julia, what would you consider your favorite genre to be, or the genre you read the most, and are those the same thing?
I put literary fiction and science fiction.
Yeah. Is that what you read the most of, do you find?
Yeah.
Lately, at least, sci-fi, I would say. You've been really getting into sci-fi over the past like couple years.
Yeah. But like historically, I've liked books about the female experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unsound women.
But now I
That's
like
what you
space guns.
And like cerebral things. Like you like things that are very like thoughtful and kind of out there.
Was there a book that recently really got you into sci-fi, or is just like it slowly grew and you just noticed, oh wow, I'm reading a lot of sci-fi right now?
I mean, I read 2001, I think like 2 years ago or something. And
okay.
I was totally hooked.
Mr. Clark really knows what he's doing.
Mr. Clark really hooked me. Yeah.
Do you watch the movie version of that?
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
How do you
yes.
Oh yes.
Yes.
How do you
Do I have to lean in each time?
Only for comedic effect.
How did feel about the movie of 2001?
I mean, I'm a big fan.
Yeah,
but I understand that some folk might not be. I watched it with my parents a couple of years ago, and they didn't go well. They didn't love it. Yeah, it's totally okay.
I mean, I do think that movie is like 80% screensaver, but that's not bad.
Oh,
screensavers are nice.
I haven't seen it.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like a visual masterpiece.
Oh, okay.
But my memory of 2001 is really, really burned into my brain. This guy in high school who was a sweetie pie. Okay, he was a sweetie pie, but he I think he thought we were like kind of on a date. Maybe we were on a date. Upon reflection, I think we were on a date, but he invited me over to his house to watch a movie, and the movie he picked was 2001. And I just remember being in his basement watching 2001 and just being like, this is so slow. What do I say about this? Like, there's I just remember it was awkward. It was awkward.
Yeah, that's a terrible first date movie for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
There's so many
I always used to just make people watch Harry Potter. That was my go-to.
Yeah, I feel like
long drawn out white noise silences. 15 minutes psychedelic
the awkward
experience.
silences, right? It's kind of about the awkward silences, but when you're 16 at a guy's basement.
I don't know if I like the awkward silence right now. It's kind of the wrong vibe.
Interesting.
I think we should watch it.
Yeah, now I'm like, wait, I think that sounds great. Yeah. Right up in my
As we have matured, that suddenly seems very appealing.
And the book is not like the movie at all in that sense. Like, it's a quick, snappy read. Yeah.
Cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Learning so much.
Well, let's see. Okay, our next question. I love this question. I'm very excited to hear your answer. So don't just answer it, tell me all about why. What is your favorite bookshop?
Yeah. I don't really know the answer to that one because I don't really frequent bookshops. I guess my two answers would be Massey Books and McLeod's in Vancouver.
Massey Books is my answer whenever I'm asked to.
Yeah. They're very different bookstores. But yeah. I mean,
I think Massey Books just has such a good curated collection.
They do.
They have so many books that I don't see at other bookstores. For example, a lot of Japanese translated fiction that you just don't generally see on the shelves at independent bookstores or even in Indigo. They have so much more interesting stuff.
And they focus on good genres. They don't have any westerns.
And they have a very large Indigenous section, which is cool. That's something that they really specialize in. So people in the Vancouver area, if that sounds interesting, definitely check it out. But they have so much cool stuff
and
there.
Art. And
I was going to say, and the art. Yeah. And it's new and used, so you can get some cool deals.
Yeah. God, that really is... I love a new and used book.
Yeah.
I love a bookshop that's mainly new books, but then they have a healthy, good, used book section. Yeah.
And then there's McLeod's. McLeod's is
opposite.
Crazy.
Yeah.
McLeod's is this crazy, and I've taken you there, Ariel. That's the one that's just books stacked on the floor, nothing looks organized.
I think maybe you've taken me there 3 times.
Probably. Yeah.
So I think you've taken me to both of these
I definitely have at least once or twice.
Definitely twice. Yeah. Definitely twice. One was a long time ago. The first time I went to Vancouver with you, remember? Yeah. And then the second time would have been, or the second time I'm thinking of, what is this recent trip where we
did our bookshop crawl. I really
feel like we've been there sometime in between.
Yes. There was another time that you visited. I remember now.
Yeah. Yeah. Was that when we had tacos? You know what? That's a conversation for another time.
I don't quite... No, that was last time. That was last time. I know what you're talking about. It was so hot.
It was so hot, and the construction was so loud. It doesn't matter. So here's my... something I wanted to mention was yesterday I was talking to a really nice person and I was telling her, unfortunately, I started monologuing about how I'm doing this project where I'm trying to visit every bookshop in Nova Scotia this year. And she asked me a very astute question. She asked, what makes a great bookshop? And I was like, shit, how do I want to answer that? Because I can't just say oh, it's the vibe. Because that's not a good answer, right?
Really bad.
That is my answer, but it's not a good answer. So I said it was a mixture of curation, because you can have a beautiful shop, and this has happened to me where I walk into a beautiful bookstore. It's happened in New York. I walked into a beautiful bookshop. I didn't and none of the
It's
books
all James
intrigued
Patterson
me.
books.
No, well, in this case, it was like all really pretentious art books, and I was like, I'm not opposed to an art book, but if it was just that, and like they're all seemingly inaccessible, you're just like, where am I? But like on the other hand, yeah, you can have that as well, where it's just like I walked into a bookshop recently where it was like mainly just mass paperbacks, and I'm like, if you're looking for that, then this is great.
Exactly.
But if you're just in a bookshop for like a curatorial, what does the bookshop want me to pick up? That's a huge part of it. Yeah. And then the second part I did say was atmosphere. And I was like, I think for me, it bubbles down to windows. Ooh. Like if there's good windows and there's nice natural light in there, you feel good. And that's like in Massey books. That bookshop feels good. And I think a big part of it is the bright big windows. So yeah, what would you say are the element, other than those elements? Is there a different thing that you would say is an important part of a good bookshop?
I think I kind of just agree with what you've said, and I had never even really put my like finger on the nail or whatever the saying is.
Never really touched that nail before.
Because I'm just thinking back to like the bookstore we worked at. I took you there back in the day when I still worked there, and it was just like a dungeon. And like that was part of what made it not a cute store. Like it was like a warehouse with no windows, bars on the windows, like in the front displays, and like
our boss painted the floors without cleaning the floors, so
our hair is in the floor.
Bugs like and all cement gray too.
And like the curation thing we were talking about too, like we did our best to curate as much as we could in terms of like the genres that we liked and the literary fiction, but there was a lot of pocketbooks
and like odd finds. Like we tried. We did our best. So much.
So yeah, I think like curation is really key, and making it look pretty at the same time too. Like we would make an effort to like face out lots of books, because I feel like that's a nice way to if you walk into a store and it's just you know,
and we wrote
reviews, it's not as good too. Yeah, we personalized a lot of things, so I think that those are things that make a store
part of it. I think actually, if a great bookshop does have the like staff pick section, or like the staff picks are everywhere with the little cards, like you said, Julia, like the reviews, like they're just info for you, so that you don't have to look at Goodreads or Google or whatever.
Exactly, and then people would ask us less questions, which was nice. What's this about?
A secret motivation.
We already told you. It's on the paper.
Okay, Julia, what are you currently reading? What's on the docket?
Well, there's like quite a few. I've just gotten a couple. So I'm reading We.
Yeah, by Evgeny Zamyatin.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I was like, maybe she'll say the last name.
She'll do it for you. When in doubt, Ariel it out.
And then Raeleen just gave me Fuckface by Leah Hampton.
Oh yeah, short story collection,
which I'm currently reading.
Very nice.
And then Dead Astronauts by Vandermeer.
Oh yeah. Does that hold up to Annihilation in any way?
Oh no.
I had a feeling you'd say that, which is why I asked.
Yeah, I've griped about it to Raeleen before. So.
Oh. Annihilation has a movie, right?
Yeah.
Is that with Natalie Portman? Okay. How does that movie hold up to Annihilation?
I think like the vibe check is correct, but I think there are some other problems with the movie. But I mean, like ultimately it has like that flowing feeling sort of. It's a similar, and like the ending is completely different, but I would say like it's like apples to oranges, you know? I do sometimes struggle with the comparison of movies to books.
Yeah, it's a totally different medium. There's some things that can't be done in a movie that you would do in a book, and that would make sense. And that book definitely has an element that would, like, it's impossible. Yeah, it would have not come across on screen in a way that would be as transcendent as it is in the book.
Yeah. So I think they did a pretty good job, but it's a hard story to.
Yeah, it's a weird book.
That's one question I've always had about that book / series is, does the first book like stand on its own, or do you really need to read the whole series?
I actually dislike the other two in the trilogy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the first one is just leave it there, I think.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
That's what I'll do.
You read it, right?
Yeah, I read it. Except my copy was missing the last 30 pages.
Did you tell them?
No, I don't think I've told this story. My copy, for some reason, it was just missing the last 30 pages. So it just ended like in the middle of a sentence. And I was like, is that how it's supposed to end? And so I texted a picture to Julia. Is this the actual ending of the book? And she was like, no. But then she went to go find her copy because I wanted to borrow it. And then when I came over to borrow it, it was gone.
Because I put the copy on my table to give to Rat.
Yeah.
And then, and it was gone for like 4 months.
Yeah,
like,
and it's just suddenly back on her shelf, and nobody knows where it came.
And our other friend, Anne Raeleen, searched my apartment, like pulled it apart. And Raeleen is very good at looking. Yep. Like,
I'm a good finder.
She is. I don't know where it went.
So yeah, it was a crazy story. So I still to this day haven't read the last 30 pages, but I could now that, you know.
I'm not saying it was a ghost.
But it probably was.
It very well could have been a ghost. A bookish ghost.
Yeah, that was a crazy thing that happened.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's very curious. I want to know also how you're feeling about We by Mr. Zamyatin.
It's good. I'm really enjoying it. Mm-hmm.
How do you feel that it compares to 1984?
I know what the next question will be. It does feel a bit like a ripoff, actually. It's kind of interesting. I would say specifically Brave New World is very similar to We.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't want to be giving misinformation, but I do think that Orwell was calling Huxley out for copying We, but
and then he went ahead and did it.
Similar, so I don't know. No such thing as copying, really. It's mostly just inspiration.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It was an era of dystopian writing, for sure.
And yeah, like as it should be. Cut that out.
Cut it.
All right. Julia, our final question for you in this section is, what is your mashed potato book? And Raeleen, I do think it's been a while since we explained what a mashed potato was, so maybe you could do that for our listeners.
All right. So a mashed potato book is a term that we came up with, meaning a book that you have either been saving because you're like so excited to read it that you're like, you know, you're going to love it, that you're almost putting it off because you're saving it for the right moment or whatever. And so this question for Julia can be, what is the most recent one you've conquered? Or is there one that's still like glaring at you from your shelf that you've been meaning to read for years and years or whatever?
Mm-hmm. And what does that have to do with mashed potatoes?
I have to even explain? The idea is, you know, for me personally, if I have a plate full of food and there's mashed potatoes on there, I will usually save them for last because they're so tasty and I want that to be the last thing that I taste. And yeah, but then if you save them for last, they might be cold. So you might be mad at yourself for like waiting to read that book, which I've definitely experienced. It's like, I could have read this 8 years ago and had my life changed 8 years ago, but now here I am.
Okay, so Julia, what'd you pick? A book that you just finished, finally read it, or one that's haunting you?
Well, I mean, I also think that this is a question that changes as you age. And like mashed potato books can like phase out of your life.
Oh, totally. Like, sometimes I'm just like, I don't care anymore about that one. I've definitely done
that. Like I used to fancy myself like someone who was gonna read all the classics. And now I don't feel that way even one bit.
Like there's not enough time or desire. There's some that I just don't care about at all. Like I decided the other day, I'm not gonna read Wuthering Heights. I'm not going to do it because I don't think I would like it. Like I've accepted that about myself. As much as I would love to like know what it's about, I guess I could just watch a movie and then I would like at least kind of know what it's about. But I don't want to read it. I'll hate it. I just know I will. So
yeah, so I mean my current ones, like I would say are like, there are lots of Russian classics I haven't read that I would like to read. I haven't read any Mishima, which seems like a crime. I know I would like Mishima, but I just haven't. Mordecai Richler I'd like to read.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then also I put American Pastoral by Philip Roth. I'd like to read.
You love him, right?
Yeah, but it's like that. I think that's going to be a really bleak read, so I'm not exactly looking forward to it, but
gotta knock it off the list.
I really would like to read that.
Yeah.
It is interesting that all of those kind of are classics.
But
you don't have,
but they're not Moby like, Dick, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
they're specific. Yes. They're Julia specific classics.
Yeah.
I just want everyone to know I don't care about Moby Dick.
Which one do you not care about, Ariel? What's a classic you don't care to read?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That is a good question. I actually think that I'm not as evolved as both of you because I have not given up hope that I won't.
No, that's good.
That's true. You're
That's
a very
good.
hopeful person. You believe in your heart that one day you'll read them all, and that's okay.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm like, no, I don't think I have given up on any of them yet.
That's
if
fantastic.
I'm like being honest, of course I'm not gonna read Anna Karenina, right? But like,
I want to read that.
I will.
Yeah, no, that's one worth reading.
will.
That's funny.
That's the tricky part of it, right? Like, all of them are so loved by their cult.
Yeah,
that
true.
like any book that you said, like, I'm sure that right now there was 10 people who were in the shower listening to this podcast, and you said, "I'm not going to read Moby Dick," and they're like, "Why?" Like,
You're an
they love
idiot.
it.
And that's so true. Like with music and movies too. Like I feel like not wanting to consume art, I don't know if that's the right term, but not wanting to experience art is usually your own lack of understanding or, unwillingness to learn to understand.
Expand your mind
So
enough.
not reading Moby Dick is my problem, not Moby Dick's problem.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, but I also would add that, like, it's also a problem of time, like you said. Like, we just don't have time, so we do have to make some calls. So I think it's fair that you're like, Moby Dick, I just can't make the cut. There's so many things that have to make the cut, and they can't all make the cut, so I have to cut some.
I always like to think, like, when I'm 85 years old, like, whatever books I haven't read yet, that'll be the time to read them, if I still want to read them at that point. I'm still young. I've got other things I want to read. I want to read Otessa Moshfegh right now, you know what I mean?
I don't know what you mean, because I think I'm giving up on Otessa, but no, totally.
Yeah, that's true. We've talked about this at length. She's kind of losing us.
She's like really grimy, right?
Yeah.
There's some.
She's so
Yeah.
grimy.
She's really grimy, that's true.
Yeah.
She's
I don't think that's necessarily bad. I just don't understand the purpose of the grime anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
not anymore. I did once.
I think I did once. After the first two that I read, I was like, oh yeah, like she's so grimy. Wow, that's so interesting. And
Just because it was different. But now it's
Yes, it was
like all 6 of her books have the same vibe, so it's
like,
not so unique anymore.
No, it ain't.
Would I like her?
I think so. Yeah. I think you would like at least a couple of them. Like, I really want you to read Lapvona. I think you would like that one because it's very messed up in a fun way.
Raeleen's a great friend to have because she's always lending me books.
Yeah.
Like I often joke that Raeleen is like the one who curates my collection for me. Like she'll just present books to me.
I
and I'm
have
like,
bought like
okay.
6 Christmas present books for you already, so
And I just read them all and I love them all. So
yeah.
she knows me quite
I
well.
do my best.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. Well, now it is time for us to transition to doing some book recommendations for the good people. Raeleen, I think you have those in front of you.
I have them ready. So we
Okay.
kind of went for a lot of like kind of fall-ish themed ones. So, well, a couple of them anyway. So I'll start with the first one here, which was from Jacob. And he says, as spooky season is upon us, I would like to read some witchy stories, but I don't like scary or creepy things. I recently read Mamo by Sass Millage, an incredible graphic novel. Yes, we just read that recently. And was obsessed with the vibe. I would love to find other witchy/magical stories that are cozy, nature-focused, and reflective. Bonus points if it's queer.
All right. Well, Julia, you are our guest. So how about you start us off?
Well, I don't know what that is, Mamo.
It's a graphic novel.
I don't know
about
who that is.
I've never met her before. Yeah. But what do you got anyway?
So I just wrote Practical Magic.
I knew you were gonna say that.
It's one of the only happy witchy books that I can think of. Or not happy, but not scary, I guess.
Yeah, it's more cozy, more like modern witches just being cool ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very atmospheric and beautiful. And then I also wrote Among Others by Jo Walton.
Oh, I didn't even think of that one. That was one we read as a group.
That's a good
Us and our one other friend, we we read that for our little book club. That's true. That one is very like witchy, but in like a very different way. It's
in a very
quiet.
modern way too. Yeah.
And cool.
What was the name of it?
Among Others by Jo Walton, who I believe is a Canadian author.
Oh, cool.
I think.
She's in thrift stores everywhere.
Yeah,
nice.
I've seen this book all the time now that I know to look for it. I'm like, yep, there she is.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's worth
It
it.
is really good.
What is that one about?
It's about a girl who has some magic in her blood, and she gets sent off to a boarding school, and she's obsessed with science fiction. And it's really about her relationship with her witch mother. And so there's a big confrontation at the end. But yeah, it's about her love of books and her magic and her communing with the forest and stuff.
That's true. I forgot about all that, but that is what it's about. She's constantly reading. I remember that now.
What age is it intended for?
I think it's supposed to be kind of YA, but like older YA almost. Okay, like I would say like 15 to 17.
But it's worth reading.
Yeah.
As an adult, for sure.
Yeah, it, like at the same time, like that being said, I would also say it could totally fit in with adult fiction books on like a fantasy shelf or whatever. I feel like it can fit in either one.
It's
neat.
Kind of a love letter to sci-fi in a way.
It really is. Yeah. Did you read any books from that book after?
I should. That's a good idea.
You should look back through it.
New project.
Yeah. Add to the list.
Yeah.
Okay, Raeleen, what did you pick?
Well, my answer is terrible because it's not like nature-y at all. I was just trying to think of something witchy that might not get recommended that often.
Yeah.
And so I decided to go with a graphic novel that you and I read together, actually, An Embarrassment of Witches. Do you have it there?
This one!
Perfect. Well, maybe you can help me out with this one then. So that one, it's very fun and like more like modern witches just like living their life. Like they live in an apartment together. It's like about two women, and like the whole world they live in is very magical though. Like one of them works at this lab that like has to do something with, you know, magical elements. So it's kind of like magic science. And then the other one just got broken up with, and so she's kind of going through a whole thing. They're both like in their mid-20s, or like I remember they were around our age when we read it. So it's kind of different in that way, but it's definitely not like nature-y that I remember. I don't think it was, but it was a lot of fun though. It was hilarious. I really liked it.
It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun reading it, and I do think it fits the prompt perfectly in that like it's a witchy book, but it's really not scary at all because it's more like like you said, like it's just about
it's kind of like a coming of age, but like a bit older. Like it's about a couple of friends going through becoming adults together.
Yes,
and
totally.
friendship.
And
the friendship
very
is there,
cute.
which is good.
Totally recommend that one.
Nailed it.
Okay, so I had that one as well. Did you have another one, Ray?
No.
Okay, so the other one that I had is Taproot by Keezy Young. It's not about a witch, but I think it's in the same vibe. It's about a happy ghost.
Okay.
So I feel like, actually, specifically, it's not a happy ghost. It's a sad ghost, but like the story is kind of like a happy, like witchy kind of thing. So this is about two characters, and I forget their names. Blue, that's the sad ghost, and Hamal, who can see ghosts. And Hamal works at a garden center as a gardener, and this ghost is haunting the garden. And they are, they're just having a very cute little relationship and friendship. And it's very cute, very nature-y because of the garden center, as you can imagine.
I think that fits perfectly.
Yeah, I think so too. So, perfect.
There you go, Jacob.
Good job, team. We did good.
Good job, team. Okay, this next one, I'm pretty pumped about this one. This is fun. So this one comes from Belinda, who says, I want to get more into classics this year, but the Western canon is unappealing to me. Austen, Dickens, etc. Do you have any recs for classics in other parts of the world? Thanks, and have loved this pod since day one. Oh, thank you. That's nice.
That's very nice. This one kind of threw me into an existential crisis.
Oh.
Because what do you think? Well, like I'd like to.
What does Western mean? Is that what you're gonna ask?
I texted her that last night. I was like, "Is Italy Western?" Like I
know,
right?
I don't know.
That's a really good question because I think Western, on the one hand, literally could just mean the West, in which case you would count South America. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that. I don't think so. Mean that.
And like Australia is Western, right?
That's what I mean. That's exactly what I mean.
There's a lot of
questions. So I don't think we mean physically Western from Greenwich.
Like
I don't think that's what we mean. But then my question was like, do we count Russia as the West? That is like a really strange question.
Because they're not though. Like philosophically, they're not the West.
Yeah, totally.
So I don't think
exactly.
So.
I don't think so. So I think maybe we're confusing not us, but like we could be confusing the West
like
with
geography
Anglo?
versus yeah. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking like in my head, Western meant America and England. I don't know why, but that's where my head went to. Specifically, I mean, Belinda did mention Austen and Dickens, who are both English authors.
Yeah, but those are only British. So I was like,
Yeah.
America, definitely. I'm sure that Belinda means in the West. Australia,
no, America, please. Yeah.
Australia and Canada, I'm guessing she probably thinks as of the West.
Because the Judeo-Christian values, I think, is what we're trying to stay away from here, right?
Yeah,
Maybe?
I think so.
Maybe, but yeah, that's such a weird.
I
Yeah,
know.
that's a weird. I found that one. I actually did find it really tricky. I was reading a lot of blog posts on like what is the West, and it's like
we didn't know we were going to be deep diving that this week.
Yeah. So, anyways, good to know that you guys also were like a little bit. What does that mean? It's one of those words, though, isn't it? It's just one of those words that can mean a lot of different things. So let's see what we all landed on.
Yeah.
I played it safe and did Japan.
Yeah, so did I.
Okay, nice. It definitely is not the West.
Yes.
Yeah, that one's for sure not. So I did Snow Country by Kawabata.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I tried reading that one once, and it was so slow that I couldn't read it.
Oh.
But that's me. That's why we're different people.
Ooh.
What is it about again? I only read like 12 pages.
It's about a self-professed ballet expert who goes into the mountains to like a bathhouse and sort of falls in love with a geisha.
Like, that sounds awesome.
But it's like, it's devastating. It's very beautiful.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Very sad and kind of,
Yeah.
does it have like a cold, bleak vibe to it? I know the
It
cover
does.
I had snow on it, so that would make sense.
Yeah, I was flipping through it last night to prepare for this, and there's this one passage right at the beginning of the book that I think you should just read, and if you like that passage, you can continue with the book. But it's about like he describes he's in a train and he's looking at the landscape going by in the train, but there's a woman sitting across this aisle from him, so her face is superimposed onto the landscape as it's going by, and it's just one of the more beautiful, and like, oh god, it's like what I love so much about Japanese books is like that, like those small moments that are described in such great detail. It's just so meaningful. Yeah.
Agreed. That's a great answer.
Cool.
Well, like I said,
I
I
need
also
to check it out.
I also chose Japan, so I chose The Makioka Sisters by
hell
Junichiro
yeah.
Tanizaki. And this one, like, I kind of wasn't expecting to like this one. It seems like potentially a book that I wouldn't like. Like, it's historical, it's set right before World War II, and it's about this kind of rich family. There's 4 sisters, and they kind of, at the beginning of the book, have started to lose their wealth for whatever reason. I can't remember exactly what the situation is, but they're kind of having like a bit of a fall from grace, so they're having to adjust to that. So it's almost kind of like, the way I like to describe it is like a little bit Little Women, but it's different because obviously the family comes from wealth, so they're different in that way, but you really have like the connection between the sisters and, you know, their connection with their parents, and it just is actually very interesting and very good. Like, there's a lot of the characters, you know, figuring out who they want to marry and all this kind of stuff, which on paper doesn't sound like something I would like, but I found it to be really beautiful and really readable. It's pretty long, but it wasn't like a slog at all. And I actually read it in the summertime, which felt like the wrong time to read it, but it was really good. So highly recommend.
And I love that edition. It's so pretty.
Yeah, it's a nice one.
so
You have that book now,
I know.
right?
I'm like, damn, I should read
You should read it. You would love it.
I picked Love Poems by Pablo Neruda.
Oh, good choice.
Have either of you read that one?
I have not, but I don't read poetry, so.
So whatever. Yeah, I've currently been on a little bit of a poetry moment. And so when I read this recommendation request, my mind went to poetry, which was fun. And I was like, follow your heart, Ariel.
Yeah, do it.
Follow your heart to Pablo. Yeah, so it says in the back, he won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1971, which is interesting. He's from Chile, and I don't know when this book was originally published, actually. Oh my god, Raeleen. This is published by New Directions.
Oh, you love that publishing house. Of course it is.
1952 is when this was first published, according to this copyright page. But I really specifically recommend that people get this edition because it's done something that I personally haven't seen. I'm sure is done like elsewhere, but I just haven't seen it myself. But it on each page, if you open it up, it has the poem in Spanish on the right-hand page and then the poem in English on the left-hand page.
That's awesome.
And I just love that because even if you don't know Spanish, at least you can see what it was originally supposed to look like. And a lot of poetry is about the shape of the actual poem. So I think that's really fascinating. But then if you do know a little bit of Spanish, or if you like know a bit of French or something, like another Romance language, I think you could pick out some of the words, and I think that really adds to it. But yeah, we talk about translation a lot, and I think it's really interesting getting to see the original one next to the translated one.
You never really see that. That's cool.
Yeah. But also, like, addition aside, I really enjoyed the poems when I read them, and I think they're really lovely. This also is very interesting. This used to be much more pink. This used to be pink. Oh. This book, but now it's like, him? I know I've never had a book fade so hard. Like, I don't know if you can see, like, the spine isn't even pink at all
He's
anymore.
sun-kissed.
Yeah, he totally faded. Fully
Touched
faded.
by the sun.
Very interesting. Okay. Next question.
Moving right along. All right, our final recommendation request comes from Reyna, who says, I'm looking for the perfect fall read. I'm looking for a book that captures that happy mood I feel when the weather gets colder and everything smells like apple cider and pumpkin bread. Horror just isn't my genre, but fall is my favorite season, so I have a bit of a tough time finding happy fall reads that aren't scary.
That is a very hard question.
The hardest question of all time.
Fall books are sad or scary, like
yeah,
as they should be.
That's what God intended.
Exactly.
I'm joking.
Julia, how about you start us off? What did you pick?
Well, I picked some books that I don't know, like that's tough. So I went for middle grade because I was like, I don't know what's both happy and cozy and autumnal feeling. So I said Emily of New Moon.
Oh, nice.
Yep. I said The Witches by Roald Dahl.
Oh, yeah. That'd be more fun.
That's fun.
Yeah.
You want to have some fun?
Roald can help you out.
And then I also wrote Climbing a Monkey Puzzle Tree.
Ooh, what's that?
It's a book I read at like 12, and it changed me forever.
Whoa.
Is that why you love monkeys so much?
I love monkeys. It's about a boarding school, a girls' boarding school. And it's not really happy, but it's easy, and it's kind of a nice experience.
Totally. No, that's great. I know, I realized right as I grabbed my books here, like none of the books I picked are actually happy, but they're not scary. That's what I'm leaning into the fact that they're not horror books. So I'll just dive right in. I picked 3, and the boarding school aspect is kind of something that I definitely lent into a little bit, because I feel like that is, for me, very much a fall vibe. Obviously, like beginning of the school year, at least here in Canada, is September, so you got that fall vibe going on. So my first pick is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro, and this one is definitely, this is on top of the stack, and Julia was like, that is not a happy book. It is very depressing and grim and kind of somber, but I really think it fits the vibe. And I've talked about this one a little bit, but very briefly, it's about 3 young people who go to this kind of boarding school. They're, given these strange tests, and they're asked to like make art, and they don't know why they're doing it. And it's all very kind of sinister. And as the book progresses, you learn what the heck is actually going on. And it's quite spooky. So it has a spooky vibe without being like, jump scary.
It's like ominous, not spooky.
Ominous.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's very, very good.
Yeah.
Highly recommend that.
Have you seen the movie?
Yes, but it's been a long time.
Okay, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, we should watch it.
Yeah,
let's do that. Let's do that later. Okay. And then the next book I picked is the other one that's boarding school, and that's Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon Maguire. And this one is a fantasy book, and it's about this kind of school academy place where people who have gone through doorways, i.e. like Alice in Wonderland, they've slipped into another world and come back, and now they're depressed because they want to go back to this cool world, but they don't know how to get back there. And so this school specializes in those people. And so it's all these people who are basically longing to go somewhere else, longing to be in a better place that is kind of like tailor-made for them. And so they're all just kind of sad. And so they're all grouped together. And the plot of this book is that there was a murder at the school. So it does have that ominous, spooky vibe. So it's a little bit dark, but not scary. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not scary.
Raeleen can't find happy fall books. It's impossible.
I don't like happy things. That's something that I've realized recently. Like, I don't really crave that.
Yeah,
I would say, though, if you want something, I mean, you're probably going to recommend, I won't even say it. I'll leave it for you. I know it. I think I know what you're going to say. But if you don't, I'll say it. But my last book, Ariel's confused. I just have a prediction. The last one I wanted to recommend is We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson. And this one, pretty spooky.
So crisp and happy.
So crisp. It's about two sisters who love each other.
Yeah.
They live all alone, and that's the way they like it.
Just read it. It's fine.
Yeah, so I feel really bad about all these recommendations, and I feel like this is not at all what the request was asking for. But yeah, this one, it's good for fall without, giving you nightmares, at least as far as I remember. I don't remember it being too scary, but yeah, it's got some ominous vibes. There's some poison and a spooky cousin or uncle or whatever he is. It's pretty good.
I forget, there was a book. Gosh, I actually do forget what it was, but there was a book that I had recommended. I think both of us recommended it, but it was mainly me. Like, I'm the one who brought it up, and then you backed me up or something, and we talked about like a book not being that sad, and then someone read it and they wrote us and they were like, that book is really sad.
I don't remember what it was. Yeah, that's true though. Like, I'm very forgetful when it comes to books, so
rereading. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
You forget.
I forget everything right after I finish reading a book.
Blessing.
I feel like maybe it was The Storied Life of A.J. Fikry. Have you read that one?
I haven't read that, so
maybe it wasn't that one, but I do feel like I told people to read that, and I was like, that's like a really wholesome, and it is like very wholesome and emotional, but I think it might actually be sadder than I remember it being.
Yeah.
So it is a little hard to remember. Okay, is this the book you thought that I was going to talk about?
No, actually.
Okay, I have another one, so we'll see.
Okay.
I have two. The first one that I truly think is perfect for this recommendation is A Psalm for the Wild-Built by Becky Chambers. Julia, have you read this series?
Mm-mm.
That's insane to me. You need to read this. I think that this is right up your alley.
I haven't read it either.
I will.
This is
for you.
The author is calling it hope punk, and it's sci-fi hope, but basically, like, I watched a talk that Becky Chambers did, and it was really, really cool. And the ethos is like, does sci-fi have to imagine a future that's grim? No, it's just like seeing what the future could be like and how science and technology could affect that future, but that doesn't actually have to be a spooky future. It could be a hopeful future. So in this one, we have this society, and I think it's like 100 years from now, or like 200 or 300 years from now. Basically, all of the robots that we created to work in factories all got up and left. They said, we don't want to work for you guys anymore. We have sentience. We don't want to be a labor force. And we want to go somewhere that has nothing to do with humans. So we're going to go into the wild. And so they've left humanity. And now it's been another like 100 years since that happened. And we have this world where people like have totally forgotten how to do these things because we depended on robots for so long. So it's sort of like one of these places where it's one of these futures, a little bit like Station 11, where it's like, it's the future, but we've gone back a lot with technology and stuff. So our main character is this tea monk who travels around the different little villages and does tea ceremonies for people. And then decides to try and go into the woods and encounters one of these robots. So it's a really touching, happy, beautiful story. It's very nature-oriented. The cover even feels very fall-like. So I think that this would be a perfect... I loved it. I loved it so much, and I really am excited to read the sequel.
There you go.
Yeah, why do I think that this would be perfect for Julia? I think two things. One, I've just learned you like sci-fi. And two, your background is full of foliage. So
that's true.
It fits the vibe.
That's it.
That sounds great.
And then the other one that I picked is Briefly a Delicious Life. Is that what you thought I would pick, Ray?
No, I was just going to say Anne of Green Gables because
I didn't pick that because I knew you liked that book so much. So I was like,
That's
same
so
here.
funny.
I was waiting for you to do it.
I think I was like, it's too obvious. But no, you're right. Like, you know what? Throw this book out the window. Let's just talk about Anne. No, Anne is perfect. It's beautiful. Everyone read Anne. I'll talk about this one. Briefly a Delicious Life by Nell Stevens is a book I'm currently reading. And so I can't fully put my stamp of approval on it, but I am really loving it. And this is about a ghost that is haunting a monastery. I don't know if, it says the story takes place in the 1830s, but she died like 200 years before that. Oh, it says she's been haunting this monastery for over 300 years. Jeez. So she's now kind of haunting this family who has come to rent this monastery. And I'm loving it so
But it's not scary?
It's not scary.
Okay. She's
just kind of like observing them, and she's kind of a sad ghost. She doesn't seem to be an angry ghost. But like I said, I haven't read it.
It's probably so scary later on.
Imagine it. Yeah, it becomes just truly horrifying at the end. I've never heard it put in the horror section though. Yeah. And also the author wrote like some other gothic books, so I don't think she's like a horror-y person.
Got it.
We'll see. I'll find out. There we go. Those were all of the books. Yeah, I think we did a great job.
I think so too. Collectively as a group. We don't really do recommendations unless we have guests on now, because I feel like I have nothing more to give, so it is nice to get a new perspective.
I know. I'm like, well, I read such basic books. Like, they're just all so, everyone knows all of these books.
Yeah.
But so that's fun.
That's okay. I don't think so. I think it's good. I think you definitely mentioned some that we never, like, we don't read that much sci-fi at all. So hearing about sci-fi today was fun. Thank you, Julia, so much for being on our pod.
Thank you for having me.
And double, triple thanks for designing our beautiful bookmarks that are going out to people right now.
I think they should be shipping out as we speak.
I think I got an email that mine shipped. Okay. So that's very exciting. I will also mention, if you don't know what we're talking about our bookmark subscription club, which basically, it does. It goes out every quarter, and we're very excited because it's going to be happening again in 2024. And if you want to subscribe to it and be a part of it, if you're like, damn, I missed out on Julia's bookmarks, hell, how do I make sure this doesn't happen again? Well, lucky for you, you can subscribe, and maybe it's open right now. Actually, it's open.
It'll be opening very soon when this comes out. It's November 6th to the 20th. That's the window.
November 6th to the 20th is the window. So get ready to subscribe, because this is the only window when you can subscribe for next year.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't worry, we'll tell you again. But yeah, Julia, thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Raeleen, any finishing words over there?
I wanted to show the world my frog hat real quick before we go.
Yes.
We didn't really talk about our crazy party, but maybe I'll talk about it next time we record. But we Julia made these hats for us, so
they
were thematic to the party that we just had.
Yep, I think people who know will know.
What a way to end it off. I don't think anyone would know.
Yeah.
The frog hats don't look anything like what they're supposed to look like if they were going to be game accurate.
Hint, hint. Game. All right. Thank you guys so much, and we'll talk to you all, except sadly without Julia, next week.
Bye.
Goodbye.